mindfulness and meditation teacher who was trained through the Greater Science Institute at UC Berkeley. So I hang out in all these health and wellness spaces, not just the nervous system, but also functional medicine, meditation, mindfulness, all the fun things. For everybody who's listening, they can find me at my website, which is Jalena T. That's JALENAT as in tango at jalenat.com. Yeah, for the website. So yeah, that's me.
Perfect. Thank you. Why somatic healing? How did you get involved?
Honestly, the story of how I got into somatics came from a part of my own journey. I had been in the health and wellness space for over 12 years at that point, and when I went to the jungle in Costa Rica and did ayahuasca. And ayahuasca opened up some stuff that, best I can understand it now, having done all of the integration work and the somatic work, is I was in severe functional freeze probably for most of my life. The plant medicine journey brought things up that were probably buried deep in the subconscious. So I always say that there was that journey in the jungle where the freeze began to melt. And then I had to deal with everything that was underneath, which led me into the world of somatics because nothing else, none of my tools, my tricks, things that I had used for many, many years were no, they were no longer working. And so hence trauma renegotiation, somatics, and yeah, all the work that I do now.
I may have to borrow that word from you, trauma renegotiation.
Yeah, I like that better than trauma healing because I don't think we're broken. I think that we are adaptive and our nervous system is protective. And so we adapt coping mechanisms, bracing patterns that serve to keep us safe. And when we're working with trauma, what we're really doing is renegotiating how it lives in the body and also the perception and the story that we give it. When we renegotiate that, those things tend to shift and we move forward, and the trauma actually becomes a lot of times like the greatest gift because we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't experienced what we experienced. So, yeah, I think of it more as a renegotiation.
It's like that saying that if you had a choice to change your past, would you, knowing that you become a different person than you are today? And many people say, no, I'll go through it again to be the person I am now, right?
Right. Yeah, it's exactly that.
I wonder then, when it comes to the body, what are some of the ways that you've seen that trauma shows up in our body physically?
Well, I work with a lot of women with autoimmune conditions. So in the somatic experiencing world, which is the modality that I'm trained in, we often say that not all childhood trauma or what we call global high trauma leads to autoimmune conditions, but all autoimmune conditions are global high, which global high is it's more of a term we use in our community and in the work that I do, but suffice to say it's you had a lot of unmet needs in childhood. So this could be emotional, physical, um, relational, right? And so when you have that, your system is always on alert for danger. There's actually really not a lot of safety in your nervous system. So that creates what we call bracing patterns. And these bracing patterns can show up as physical pains in the body, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, like I mentioned, any and all autoimmune conditions. Um, it can also show up as we constantly being triggered, right? The same thing is triggering somebody over and over again, wanting to move towards something, but feeling stuck, like you just can't actually go towards the life that you want. So those are just a few examples.
I've known, as I've gotten older, I'm 40 now,
Mhm.
I've realized that I know a lot of women that have developed some of the conditions that you have mentioned, right? Whether it's fiber or whether it's anxiety, a lot of autoimmune.
Mhm.
issues. And I don't know if there's any studies on this because I've been looking for it. I wonder then what the impact is for women versus men, because you just in general seem to hear more women experiencing autoimmune than men, but I don't know how true that is.
No, I think that the research shows like there's f 5 times greater autoimmune conditions in women than there are in men. And from a trauma lens, we talk about autoimmune conditions from the trauma lens in women more so because of conditioning. A lot of it's conditioning. Like women, we're raised in a Western culture oftentimes to put everybody else's needs first. You don't express your emotions. It's too much. So we learn that fawning or appeasing is what garnishes love and acceptance. So we're constantly, from a very young age, kind of inhibiting our own natural desires and wants and needs in order to kind of placate and be, good girls or um, behave a certain way, dress a certain way. So it comes back to that, it's this never actually allowing these survival responses in the nervous system to come to completion.
So for the women out there, they're always in survival mode. So therefore, sorry, I shouldn't say all women. There's a number of women out there who are in survival mode, and because they're in that state for a prolonged period of time, their body's starting to resist it, and this is why their body's reacting the way that's reacting.
Yeah, that's a big part of it because if you think about the fact that if they're in survival mode for decades, and for a lot of women that is the case, you never go fully into the parasympathetic where you can fully rest. And healing it requires energy, and that's why a lot of times women mid-age, I work with a lot of women in perimenopause, and we get to this point where we're kind of getting tired of doing everything for everybody else, and um, the body is actually saying, I can't go on like this anymore. So they start to feel burnt out or really apathetic. They don't recognize themselves. I mean, of course, perimenopause and the hormone changes play a role in that as well. But we need rest, and we need to experience authenticity and joy and self-expression in order for the nervous system to have more safety and regulation on board. And that's where that deeper healing happens. So healing isn't always about doing more. Sometimes, and more often than not, especially with autoimmune conditions, it becomes about doing less.
I remember I didn't write it. I did a presentation for a Rewrite Your Story group. And I
Mhm.
was talking about that, how the different decades in our life, all the way to 50 for men and women. And a lot of people in general thought that your 20s are the best time of your life. And I was like, you think that, but looking
Mhm.
back, you're like, no. So the research showed that for a lot of people, it's not the best time. But for a lot of men, 40s was their best period of their life. Not so much for women. And to your point, it seems that maybe men will reach a certain age, things get better in general. Maybe it's like more like peaks and valleys, right? It goes down, then it comes back up.
Mhm.
In women, you would think that as we all get older, we understand this is what we want, this is what we're looking for, but something happens to women. And what I've been able to find is that in general, women struggle with a lot more than men, where it's like, who am I? I'm having an identity crisis. Do I want to continue to be this person, to your point, pleasing everybody, people pleasing, all this other stuff? Or is it time for me? I'm at midlife, right? Why do you think women in general struggle with putting themselves first, especially as they get older?
I don't know if in my experience, or at least what I'm seeing because I'm 40, so women in my age group, what I'm seeing more now is maybe that they are starting to do things for themselves a little bit more than they had because they're raising kids. A lot of their kids are getting older now. I don't know. There's something to be said about when you start going through hormone fluctuations and you just don't care what people think of you that much. And I would say being in my late 30s, moving into my early 40s, that's probably the most liberating piece of it. It's like I'm just me. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be goofy and silly, and I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. And so there's this almost like reclaiming of that little girl who kept getting shut down, and maybe that's the circles I run in and that's what the women are moving towards. But in my experience, even I have a lot of women who are older in their 50s and 60s, and they always say things like, if you think 40 is good, wait till you're 50 and you're past perimenopause and now you've just got more stable hormone levels. So I think that there's a lot to look forward to for women as we age because we kind of just come into ourselves a little bit more.
I think we reach a point in our life, men and women and everybody, where our hormones are in balance, or sorry, are balanced,
Hmm.
our emotions are balanced, and we're like, this is the life. And I think it's over 40. I just don't think it's before that. What are your thoughts on as we age and our body starts to show us, okay, this is what we want. And as to your point where we're like, okay, I don't really care what other people think. I used to care, but now it's me time. It's Jalena time.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel that fully. I know my husband's a couple years younger than I am, but he's moving into 40. He feels that, we look at our parents, and maybe you can relate to this, but the dads always wore the pulled up socks, right? The white socks with the sneakers, and that's cool again. So you just get to a point where you're like, I'm just comfortable. I'm doing this because I want to do it. And it just feels really good to finally get up to a point in life where you start to move into enjoying it and seeing it for the gift it really is. Because I always say life is the gift. And I think for in our teens, 20s, even into our 30s, it's like we're striving, we're trying to achieve, we're trying to be what we think we're supposed to be. But it's usually for somebody else other than like our authentic true self, right?
The day I felt 100% safe in my body is the day that I started buying those little house slippers, those
Mhm.
socks. And I took a picture and I sent it to someone, and they're like, Terrain, that looks like you're in a hospital. The old me would have been like, oh my God, let me burn these socks.
Mhm.
You start to feel like, the anxiety and stuff. You're like, oh my God, someone's not approving.
Mhm.
Now, I bought six more in different styles. I have them on right now. I
Yeah.
love them so much, and it feels good in my body because when I was a prisoner, I like to say, of people pleasing or things like that, there's times where if I would get criticism, whether it's valid or not, my body would start to get heated. It was like it was reacting. It's like, oh my God, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I have imposter syndrome. My body's telling me it's responding to what I'm giving it, right? Now, because I do the regulation and I'm in control of it, it's like, Train, okay, didn't do a good job here. Okay, let me go do better. But I don't stress. I don't have that reaction. How important is it to learn the power, the benefits of, let's say, physical regulation and emotional regulation?
Oh my gosh, I mean it would literally change the world. If I could give I have a niece, she's 18, she just graduated from high school, and I look at girls her age and I just think if I could give them one gift, it would be to not worry about what anybody else thinks. And that, like you, to your point, it comes from being okay with yourself. But that stems from the regulation, from doing these things to feel through the discomfort because it's normal to feel uncomfortable in your body. The question is always, can I be with this and not lose myself in it or not distract or not try to manage it in some way? And at the end of the day, that's through the physical nervous system when we work to build capacity, flexibility, more regulation. The emotional piece follows suit because when the nervous system feels safe, it's a bottom-up processing. So the thoughts and the way we perceive the world also begins to shift. So if we just work that bottom up processing with the nervous system, everything else just kind of falls into place too.
What role then does our friends, the people around us, play in our how our body is reacting to what we're going through?
I mean, co-regulation for humans. I mean, we are not meant to live in silos as human beings. We are literally meant to co-regulate in groups. Um, so you can feel this when you have a good, solid core of people who are also doing their work. Feels really different to be around them than people who are still playing out subconscious patterns. Maybe they're still quite a bit in a victim mindset. They tend to lean towards more negativity, more pessimism. They feel draining to be around for people who are moving towards more regulated states because you just don't want to be in that place anymore. So you can hold space for them, but sometimes through this work, I say you have to learn to love some people from a distance.
Arm's length.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can't force anybody to do the work, right? They have to be ready to meet us somewhere. Um, so it's never about let me come down there to get you. It's like, hey, I'm up here and the view is much nicer. Would you like to join me? I can show you how I made it. Yeah.
The view has always been better from the penthouse, right? Than the ground
Oh,
floor.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to be up on the penthouse?
Someone once shared with me that she started to do the work, and one of the reasons why she stopped doing it was she started to distance herself from her friends, and she struggled with feelings of loneliness and being alone. How can we help someone who is at that crossroads where they see the penthouse view, they're liking it, but all the people that they knew before this journey is on the ground floor and they know they can't take them with them and they may experience loneliness?
Yeah, I mean, that's a real side effect of doing this work, and the thing that I'm always telling my clients when this comes up for them is, can you expose yourself to different groups of people? Can you try a different type of class than you've ever tried? Can you put yourself in situations that maybe in the past you wouldn't have? It's a little outside of your comfort zone. So we work with their nervous system to build enough safety and tolerance to be able to move towards those things. Um, and then it's also comes back to setting boundaries, right? I still engage with people in my life who would continue to be kind of a drain on my energy if I don't have these boundaries in place. But it turns into we can hang out, but we're not talking about these things, right? And so I learned to love them for who and where they are, but I don't share everything with them because they cannot meet me there. And I just hold this kind of sacred space with my energy now that I'm not going to allow it to swing over that way anymore, at least not for extended periods of time.
How can we help the people to develop that type of courage to have that type of conversation either externally with those people or
Mhm.
internally with themselves?
Yeah, well, I always say courage comes from safety. And in the somatic experiencing work that I do, we have to build safety in the system first. Because for so many people, losing those relationships can feel life-threatening. And from a human perspective and the fact that we rely on each other, that's a very real thing that needs to be worked with in the nervous system itself. So we build safety in the system, not only in, being able to be alone, but not lonely, and then also building tolerance to setting those boundaries. So it's not like we just come out of the gate and do something huge and massive. It's like let's play with something. What feels tolerable to do? And it might just be setting this little boundary like, oh, they're calling me and I just don't have the energy to talk to them right now, so I don't pick up the phone. Or they're sending me a text message and I just don't respond. For a lot of people, that in and of itself is a lot to sit with. The uncomfortable feelings of not picking up that phone or returning that text message. So it happens in these slow, tolerable, kind of titrated ways.
Share with us when you're speaking with your clients and you're helping them to, let's say, regulate their nervous system. What practical ways can you share that will help our audience in regards to how you're helping your clients regulate their system?
Yeah, well, so kind of to the point of the last example, in somatic experiencing, we're always talking about titration. So little by little. So let's just say, for example, I'm working with somebody who wants to have more visibility online, but every time they go to do a video, they're like recording it 50 times and they're like, oh, that's not that good. Or they're trying to make everything perfect. So what we would do in that scenario is we would say, well, what if you recorded a video 30 seconds and you sent it to your best friend, right? Can you do that? I would say, is that sound tolerable? And they'd probably say, yeah, I could do that. Great. So they do that. And then the next time, make it 60 seconds. Build it to 2 minutes. Can you record a 3-minute video? And then instead of sending it to your best friend, could you send it to an acquaintance? Right? So we're building the safety in the nervous system that's telling the nervous system, it's showing it, I'm doing this thing and nothing bad or scary is happening. So then we keep moving towards the thing that we want in these titrated ways, right?
It's like retraining the mind body to identify maybe safe spaces in spaces that weren't safe before.
Um, well, no, because if we want to, it's about building the internal tolerance for the discomfort is really what it's about. Because if I start with my best friend, there's maybe a little bit of discomfort in sending that to them, but there's more discomfort with sending it to an acquaintance. And then maybe I send it to, or, I post it on Facebook and then I remove it right away. So we're not just putting ourselves in safe spaces, we're creating a safe space within us so that no matter where we go or what we do, unless it's a real threat to our safety, like we're being chased by an animal or you know what I'm saying, like real threats to our physical being, these perceived threats we can actually build internal safety around so that the thing is no longer scary to do because actually we've built enough safety internally that we can just move through it. And even if somebody criticizes us, that's fine. We worked with that too. So we have the tolerance to be with that as well.
So the internal safety is more beneficial because when you go out into the world, you're still going to feel safe because you've done the work internally for yourself.
Right, and this is going to open up in bring meeting new people who when you know what it feels like in your own body to have that regulation on board, you're much more able to navigate the world because you're listening to the signals your body is sending you and you are in most ways honoring those. Now sometimes we do have to move outside of our zone of comfort. Certainly that's how we grow. That's meeting that growth edge, right? That's how we begin to expand that capacity. But if you think about if I feel solid in me. And when I work with clients, everybody has their own way of knowing where they're just like, I'm good. For some people, it's like a way, like a swooshing. The language of the nervous system is all sensation. So they feel a certain way in their body, which tells them, this is fine. I've got this. Um, and so that's what the internal safety starts to build for you. And you just learn really to navigate the world differently. You can just do things that you once weren't able to do, and things that once bothered you just don't bother you. And you can tolerate being around people without having to engage with certain conversations. You can just like nod your head and be like, "Oh, nice. Right. Okay." It's so hard to describe this work because it really is a felt sense. But yeah, it shifts how you engage with the world around you.
You could work with the devil and still go home with a smile and feel good about yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and of course, my Buddhist teachings and my mindfulness and meditation always we practice a lot of compassion. And I always say people can only meet you from the level of consciousness they're currently at. And if you can recognize it from that place, it's a little bit easier to lean into compassion versus anger and resentment and, all those other emotions that nobody really enjoys feeling at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to experience the emotion, and then it's another thing for the emotion to have control over you. And then now you feel trapped by emotions that maybe aren't serving you to become the person that you're trying to become. I think that's what we're helping them to identify, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we're humans having a human experience, so we're gonna feel all the whole range of emotional states. It's not that any of them are wrong or bad, it's just you don't want to get stuck in them. So I'll still have, I mean, there will be moments where, let's just say, jealousy comes online, and I just get a sense of what that feels like in my body, and then if I sit with it long enough, I notice something about it that I want that I don't have. Right? So it actually has nothing to that other person in many ways is just a mirror for something that I actually want to move towards but haven't been able to. So in many ways it's this opening for self-inquiry and for me to start moving towards something that maybe I wasn't even aware that was on my radar because that's how the subconscious works. It's just like, oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah.
When it comes to these different feelings, and for those who are maybe taking their first step, but they're still struggling with the emotional regulation or the physical
Mhm.
regulation, how have you seen that impact their self worth when it comes to experiencing this journey?
Yeah, this is something that I see a lot, and it's kind of heartbreaking for me because there's a lot of people who are on these healing journeys, right? And they're constantly trying to fix something about themselves. Or in the nervous system world, they'll say, "Oh, I use all these tools, but I still keep coming back to the same place." So they're trying really hard. They want to see a shift in their life, but then they feel like they're failing because they're not getting to where they want to go. So then it breeds more guilt, more shame, more apathy, more of these shutdown states where then people are like, well, what's the point? I don't even want to move forward. And to me, that's really heartbreaking because I will say this, and it is like I stand by this as the number one most important thing is we don't want to be separate from love. And in those moments, we need more love, not less love. And we're so quick to give it to everyone else around us. And I always tell people, if that was your 8-year-old child, how would you talk to them? Would you say those things? And they're like, no, never. That is the 8-year-old part of you that you are shaming, And so it's just always let's come back to giving more love. And that softens something in the nervous system and in the psyche and in the emotions, right?
Why do you think some people find it easier to give love to others than to themselves?
I think we're really conditioned for that. We have a lot of societal norms in the West. And then for those of us who are like millennials and grew up in that era, I mean, I would get hurt and parents would be like, "Ah, get up and walk it off." So there's never any ability to there was like don't feel sorry for yourself, just push through. I think religion breeds this a lot, help thy neighbors, take care of everyone else, but there's this self-sacrificial piece of it in a lot of ways as well. I didn't grow up going to church or anything, but in the clients I work with who did, I see more guilt and shame in religious communities than I see anywhere else. And quite frankly, the guilt and shame are some of the hardest things for people to get over.
When it comes to the self sacrifice, I think some people who have grown up in that type of environment where it's seen as a badge of honor,
Yeah.
right? I did this for you because I can, because maybe my life is in abundance and I'm not going to take it from me, right? I pour into your cup before I even look into pour into mine. Unfortunately, I think some people have taken it to toxic levels where they have, let's say, a whole village and they're pouring in everyone's cup. By the time they get home, they're like, oh, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry. And when they
Yeah.
go out now to be assisted by others, everyone's like, nope.
Yeah.
We can't help you. And I think that's the unfortunate side because how do we then undo years, decades of, to use your word, conditioning, maybe from our childhood or from our circle where it's always give, give, give and
Mhm.
receive less, less, less?
Yeah, this is where we have to show the nervous system that there is another way. For each client, for every person, it's different because there are no two nervous systems that are the same because it's shaped by your life experience. And even if you're a twin and you grew up in the same household, your life experience that shaped you is different than your twin. So every person is has to be worked with in that unique way that is like this is them showing up in front of me and they need something different than the next person, even if we're working with guilt and shame. If I'm working with guilt and shame and I have five people in front of me who are all struggling with guilt and shame, I can guarantee you the way that I have to work with each of those individuals is going to vary. Um, because whatever shaped their system, the stories, it all has its unique place in how we move forward to create this. Again, it's coming back to this sense of if I do this thing different, I'm going to be okay. So again, it's showing the nervous system over and over again that I can move towards something different is even if it's a small, small step, nothing bad happens. You're slowly reshaping that system towards more safety, towards the thing that you want, right?
What kind of impact would then someone who's in, let's say, a difficult relationship and they're trying to create that safety in their nervous system, but their environment is counterproductive to it?
Yeah, I mean, that is always far more challenging. We, depending on like, is it physical safety that is being compromised, you know what I mean? Then the nervous system is always going to perceive the threat. Now, sometimes some of us are in what we think are bad relationships, um, and we haven't done our own personal work necessarily. So the way that we're perceiving the badness of the relationship or the fault of the other person, for example, will begin to shift as we do our own work and bring in more capacity and regulation in our own system. And it becomes a lot easier then for the relationship to either strengthen or to kind of fall away because there's this sense of empowerment and assuredness that comes online when we're doing this work. It's just one of the one of the after effects, right? It's the byproduct of doing it. And when you step into that from this place of like, you know what, I've got me and I'm not going to self-abandon anymore. Things that don't meet us where we're going, they don't have room in our life anymore. Um, and I'm not saying that that part of it's easy, but as that self-empowerment and that assuredness come online, stronger and stronger, that does get easier for sure.
I made that journey where this was back in my 20s, and I realized that the relationship at that time wasn't going to be one that could be a part of my journey into the man that I was becoming. But
Mhm.
I was at a crossroads. I was like, I spent 2.5 years into this relationship. I spent a year and a half into my um trauma renegotiation, to use your word. I love that. I'm stealing it, by the way.
Go for it.
But it was tough just because the feelings, the emotions that I was experiencing with this person, they were still strong enough to cast doubt.
Yeah.
And I think everyone could agree doubt, especially self doubt, is something that destroys so many dreams, so many passions. But I had to take a step forward and say, Terrain, who are you doing this for? Are you doing this journey for you or are you doing it for the other person? To our earlier point, right? You have to pour into yourself.
Hmm.
That self-doubt or that hesitation or that unknowing land that's in front of us. Do some people fall back into bad habits which can delay their trauma renegotiation?
I mean, yeah, that can happen. And in the work that I do, like I can bring this back to a client example, right? Where they're working towards something and they can be really having great progress and they're like, I feel like myself. I'm able to set these boundaries. And then something big happens, like they need to make a move or to move like physically, or there's a death or there's a big grief that comes up. And sometimes those things can serve to kind of throw us off of our stability. And that's not uncommon. But they always have that place within them when we've done enough work together that they know what they need to do because they know what it feels like in their body. And I'm telling you, Terrain, the body isn't going to lie. This does. This is what tells all the stories. If you can just get back into your body will not lie to you. And somatic experiencing is all about learning that language of how your unique nervous system is communicating to you. And once you learn that, you never know it. It's like you have a best friend on your side all the time, and you're just like, okay, I've got to follow it. And it doesn't make a lot of sense cognitively to the prefrontal cortex, but we've got to go this direction because I know that this is what is next for me.
I 100% agree. The mind will tell us, man, this, I know some people that live in their head, Jelena, they're like, whew,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's just take it down a notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? What do you think the disconnect is then?
Well, I mean, again, back to societal conditioning. How many people have heard think, don't feel? At least women, we're always told, oh, you're too emotional. You need to use your brain. So we start to disconnect. But we're taught from a very young age. You go to primary school and you have all these impulses as a child to like run and anger comes up and you want to like hit something or break something, right? And you just have to sit there very quietly, very good. Otherwise, you get put into special classes or you get sent to detention, you get yelled at home. So they've conditioned us from a very young age to suppress a lot of our biological needs and urges in order to fit in and um I don't know, I don't want to call it a cog in the wheel or anything, but to go along to get along is kind of what I see it as. And it's not that when we're expressing our biological needs that we're running amok. It's not really like everybody's just going wild, but for kids, they do need to be able to learn how to emote and express that stuff because they don't actually have a fully frontal or online prefrontal cortex yet. That's where the co-regulation and um, learning how to work with your body should start, but we suppress it, right? And then we learn kind of to shut all that stuff down. So I guess long-winded answer to the question is just we're taught that because we're easier to deal with then.
We're taught at 2 years old to be a good little boy, good little girl. We're taught at 22, 42, and 52 to be a good little boy, good little girl, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and so that has consequences because if we're not allowed to express what's coming up and we don't know how to do that in a healthy way, and we don't have an adult who can meet us in what we're experiencing, this is where the co-regulation comes online. We learn what we call coping patterns, coping mechanisms. This could look like all kinds of things. This is where drug abuse comes in, alcohol abuse, over exercising, eating disorders, all of these things are symptoms of there being too much emotional charge in the body, and we don't know what to do with it. but so we numb it out or we manage it in some way.
One thing that I've seen a lot of people my age, since we're close in age, especially women actually, well, single people, I should say,
Mhm.
is instead of doing the regulation, they drown themselves in work. And I
Yeah.
found a lot of people 12, 14, 16 hours. Someone asked me at work the other day, like, Train, how do you stay so calm and so positive? I'm balanced. Like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I was like, what you're doing and killing yourself in all these other ways that aren't fulfilling
Mhm.
you because you're asking me these questions. So obviously you want something different. I'm like, I don't do these things. I'm like, I did when I was seeking outside validation.
Yeah.
But once I started to work inward first, that's where I truly became balanced and I wasn't as anxious anymore. But do you see that as well, where people develop, let's say work, for example, where it's something that distracts them from paying attention to their body?
Yeah, I mean, definitely overworking is one of those coping mechanisms, and it's rewarded and it's valued in our society. I mean, you probably everybody when you call your friend or somebody and you're like, "Hey, how you been?" They're like, "Busy." Like it's a badge of honor to be busy, and it's like that's the society we live in. So people who over exercise, overwork, overgive, they are rewarded. And people say, wow, I'm so proud of you for doing this. So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, except they always feel like something is missing, or gosh, I've done all these things and I still feel like I've gotten nowhere. So there's signs that what you're doing isn't working. And it sounds like for you, Terrain, you noticed that and you got off that hamster wheel to do something different. And that's where that sense of calm and peace or even aliveness, like to fully self-express life through you starts to come back online.
One of the biggest indicators that God, the universe, whatever it is you believe in, gave to me, for those out there, is my manager. Two things. He missed the birth of his child
Mhm.
because he's working.
Yeah.
And the second, because he was working so often and eating the type of food that was available in the office, he actually developed diabetes.
Uh,
And then I was looking at him. He's 10 years older at that time. Well, he's still 10 years older, but he was older at age. And I look back and I was like, geez, this is the future me.
yeah.
Right. And before that, I was working at a immigration law firm. And the lawyer at the time, he was about 30 years older than me. And he was sharing one day that his children don't come to visit because he misses anniversaries, birthdays. He sees his wife because she works there now. And then he said, Terrain, I don't think if I were to die that they would visit me on my deathbed. Those were the two indicators that it is not worth it long term for the type of person I want to become. Do people get that type of in your face aha moments, or is it maybe baby steps and then they reach it, in your opinion?
Um, I think it can happen both ways, honestly. Usually, I mean, it's so common to be in a session with somebody and as they tune into what's happening in their body, they get memories or insights, and they're like, oh my gosh, something just landed for me. And they can make a shift then that like their perception shifts. And you know as well as I do, when you have a perception shift, everything else can begin to shift too. Um, but yeah, I mean, it can kind of happen both ways when we start to do this work because we get underneath why are you is this how you want to be living, and most of the time they're like no, but it's like they can't stop, they're compelled to keep doing it even at the sacrifice of everything they say they care about. So we start to peel back the layers of the onion as to not therapeutically like in a therapy session where it's like oh well, your parents did this to you, or it's not like that. It's what do you feel in your body, because for so many people, it feels like they will literally die if they don't do the thing that they're compelled to do. So again, it's like building tolerance to be with the discomfort. And over time, they're able to not miss birthdays, not miss anniversaries. but it sometimes it's slow in how it unfolds.
So we can't do this in our 20s. We have to be 40, right?
No, man, I wish that everybody was doing it in their with their kids. I have clients who I work with them, but they are transferring this work to their children. When you do this work for yourself, there's nobody you interact with who it doesn't touch. You just become a different person in how you, again, relate to the world, relate to other people. In one act of kindness, one act of meeting somebody in their grief, in their anger, without matching that energy, you're just holding the space. It can change their whole life. And then everyone they interact with, it's like a web. It just keeps going out further and further.
You step into the room, you're glowing, and people are like, "Ooh, you look different. What happened?" And then you share this transformation, and it inspires others, right?
Yeah, makes such a big difference. And I always say with this work, it's slow but fast. I mean, most of my clients come into a 3 or 4 month container for one-on-one, and they come in with anxiety, panic, chronic migraines, and within 2 months, I'm like, what are your wins? How's everything going? They're like, "Ah, I don't know if I really have any." And I'm like, "Well, how's your anxiety been?" I'm like, "Oh, I haven't had any." I'm like, "Oh, so that's so normal now that that's not even a win for you?" Like, you know? So it feels slow because you're literally learning a different language. But once you learn it, you can imagine learning like a new language. You got to get the nouns and the verbs and all that down, and you got to learn the words and then to string them together. But once you get it, you're kind of like off to the races at that point. You're like, okay, I can engage in conversation. I can order food at the restaurant. Working with your nervous system is very much like that. It's like in the beginning, you're like, what am I doing? This doesn't make sense. And then it slowly starts to piece together. And then you're like, oh, this is what we're doing. And then you're off to the races. And then it's like, come see me if you have a big life event that throws you off balance. But otherwise, go enjoy your life.
How big are those self wins, and why do you think some people hesitate to celebrate themselves?
I think that's part of the conditioning too. I mean, we don't want to toot our own horn. And you become normalized, like it becomes normal. It's like if my foot hurts every day, I'm paying attention to the fact that my foot hurts. As soon as it stops hurting, my attention is off of it. So it's not even like in the realm of what I'm putting my conscious awareness on anymore. It becomes more subconscious at that point.
We're looking for new things to focus on.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I had anxiety. And when you have anxiety, and anybody who has had it knows it is all you can think about. How do I get rid of it? Why is it here? Um, Once you work with it and you don't have it anymore, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I did used to have anxiety. That was weird. But you don't, it's like we forget pain points very quickly when we move out of them.
John, let me ask you one final question before I let you go. I want to give you three wishes for this question.
Okay.
What are three things you wish people knew
hmm
about the long term benefits of emotional regulation and why?
The three benefits to emotional regulation. Um, well, you just live a more I don't even want to say a better life. It's just more robust because when you can experience the whole range of human emotion without getting stuck in any state, you really start to tap into not just the depths of your grief, but the depths of your joy, right? And the depths of happiness and awe. You get the awe back where you can watch a sunset and you're like, wow, just wow, right? Um, so you're doing that for yourself, but the other gift would be is that everybody that you come in contact with also benefits from you doing this work. It trickles out. It's like a web of touching other people's lives to showing them that there's another way. And at the end of the day, so many people, myself had included, and maybe Shireen, you can relate, but we've been on these healing journeys. And we're just like, oh, everyone always feels like there's somewhere to get to. And I think in doing this work, it helps people understand that you're not always going to feel good, but there's nowhere to go. You're not getting anywhere. This is a journey and you're completely healed right now. It's just that you're kind of having these different versions of yourself as you go. Um, but it's more enjoyable. It's like this interaction with life becomes less about I need to fix something about myself and I'm already perfect just the way I am. But I want to experience more of this thing. So I'm going to move towards that. So it just like opens up life in ways that are just will surprise and delight you. Yeah, over and over.